everybody! Come on, let's all go to the midsection. We meet here for the demo for the ossobuco, for the braising. All right, everybody, thanks for joining again. Finally, on day 4, we talk about braising. We finally get to use these more tough cuts of meat. Tough cuts of meat generally require long cooking periods, as we talked today in the lecture, but they're also rewarded with a great flavor. A not uncommon braise is ossobuco. So for this, we're having veal shank, cut slices around about an inch in thickness, inch to inch and a half in thickness. What we'll do now is we just use the regular procedure of braising. What we do is we first will season it well, just with salt and pepper from either side. Right, season it well. And then we will dredge it in flour to have a dry surface. Our pan is preheating on the stove, so we can go ahead with no further delay. Then also, again, dredge in flour, but it's just like with the chicken breast. When we dredge it, make sure you dredge it slightly and shake away all excess. That's very, very important, that all excess is removed, because we don't want to have a crusty ossobuco. We just want to have a dry surface, and that'll ensure an even sear. So we have our pan is hot, oil is going in the pan. So the pan is nice and hot. We have a slight haze of smoke coming up, and the ossobuco is going right into the hot pan. Important to understand that, again, just like for sauteing, this searing part is not happening. It's not happening for sealing in the juices. We just need to create some color and flavor along with the color. So let's sear it nicely from either side. See, the pot I'm using here to braise the veal shank is an ideal for those two pieces. This may not be the most common braising pan, but it holds those two pieces very well. So once we have a nice color, we'll then turn it over and sear the other side as well. I can go a little darker. We're looking for a golden to dark brown. Again, this is not beef, this is veal, so golden to dark brown color. We're starting off a light red and want to go to a golden to dark brown color. Once we achieve this, flip it over and sear also the other side. All right, let him brown nicely from one side. Now we turn it over and brown the other side too. Make sure they lie flat on the bottom of the pan to ensure an even browning. And as you see again, I brown them without shaking the pan back and forth. The pan sits peacefully on the stove. If you were to shake this pan back and forth, you would truly disturb the browning process. Again, another minute or so until we achieve a nice color on the other side. All right, the veal shank now is well browned from either side, and it'll leave the pan. And look at this, what we have here. That's our beautiful font, our beautiful pan drippings. We want to utilize this. Another mirepoix goes right in there, straight in there. Mirepoix, onions, celery, and carrots. And we want to caramelize this a little bit. So this will help now also add some color. It'll help to create flavor. And the juices which come out of the vegetable will now, as you see, release the pan drippings. Once we have caramelized this nicely, we'll add some tomato paste. So far, it's almost the same as if you're making a pan gravy. It looks very similar to this, right, like in the roasting process. So once you smell the caramel, once you smell the sweetness of the vegetable, that's when you go for the next step. It's very important to understand, whenever we cook, we use all our senses. We hear the vegetable sizzling in the pan, we smell it, we see it. It's very important to use all your 5 senses whenever you cook. Make sure the pot doesn't burn. As soon as this happens, it gets awfully bitter. And that's something we truly want to avoid. Once the vegetable has achieved a nice color, what we're doing then is we're adding some tomato paste. It's very clear it has some nice color now. Adding the tomato paste. And I'm very sure that you remember what we're doing now. This is so-called pinçage. On this stage, we're also roasting the tomato paste for several reasons. This one will also now help to caramelize the tomato paste, overpowering its harsh, raw, acidic flavor. Tomato paste by itself is certainly nothing special, nothing delicious. And this process will help us to overpower the nasty, raw flavor of the tomato paste. And the next step, after we have achieved a rusty brown color, you will see now after a while the tomato paste turns to a rusty brown, and that's where we want to be. Once we have achieved this, we go at the next step. We want to be quick now because the font, as you see, turns very dark, you know, would burn. So next step is the white wine. And to completely reduce the white wine, you might remember this term, we reduce the white wine au sec. So we do this now, and once the white wine is completely gone, we add a small amount of flour, just a little bit. Just a small amount of flour. And that'll help us also as a sauce thickener. So all these things help us for color and flavor development. We're creating a roux here. Not too much, just a little bit. Make sure you cook it a little bit. And the next thing what goes on is our brown veal stock. And our tomato concassé. So bring all this to a boil. So once that is simmer, take your seared ossobuco, add it right back in here, and on a very, very slow simmer, and make sure we cook it very, very slowly. Before we do that, we want to taste it right now and verify proper seasoning, because by now it's very easy to adjust. So very important, check it out real quick and say, oh, it certainly needs more salt. So add salt right now. Add more salt to liquid right now. Be aware the meat has been seasoned already. And you see the meat is only covered by half. Make sure it doesn't come to a rapid boil, so flip it over once, frequently. And now this one gets a lid on top, and after this, it'll go into the oven. You may be wondering why in the oven. Can we not just braise it on the stovetop? Most certainly you can. So it'll stay in the oven now for approximately an hour to an hour and a half. However, we have to check this frequently. In this case, set it and forget it doesn't exist here. It's very important to understand. What we do here now is we make sure we have a semi-steady, slow simmer going on. All right, now after half an hour, let's check it real quick. Let's make sure that we have a steady, slow simmer going on here. Look at this, slowly bubble going on around here. Perfect. Looks nice and shiny. We might as well turn it now. Get our pair of tongs. Just turn it over once. Look at this. And right back to the oven. The veal shank, the ossobuco, has now been in the oven for approximately an hour and a half. It's a good time. Let's check one more time if it's done. I assume actually it is done. So check it out. Take it out here. You'll see it simmering nice and slowly. And the ideal way to check it done is just to poke it carefully with a knife and easily. So it's certainly tender. We can easily pierce it. There's no resistance. Wonderful. So let's take it over. And basically this is now ready to serve. Key point to braising here is slow. Slow and low. Very slow and low heat. Now in between, one of you guys asked me if I really have to do this in the oven. Certainly not. You can of course do this on the stovetop. If I would braise 2 portions of ossobuco, and I would switch on the oven for this, my wife would question my sanity. Of course you can do this on the stovetop. You just have to make sure it's on a very low flame. You have a constant low simmer. The oven is certainly ideal for this, but it also works on the stovetop. So what we do now is with a slotted spoon, we remove the meat from the sauce. Make sure you be careful because it falls apart very easily now. It's very, very tender. And goes straight onto the serving plate. If you need to hold this for some time, the best way to hold this is in the cooking liquid. As you see, the cooking liquid is at the perfect viscosity. Now, optionally, what some chefs would do, they would actually strain the liquid. And that's a personal thing. If you like it more rustic, you can leave it whole. However, if you like it more refined, you can, of course, strain the whole thing out. I like the rustic approach, the country style, and I don't want to waste all those vegetables, so they're just perfectly fine. And goes right over here. Because you may be wondering how come I haven't tasted this whole thing yet. Trust me, I tasted it often enough. Get ready for a treat. Very, very tasty. Unlike our sauteed dishes, we actually will cover a braised dish with its sauce. Remember yesterday's sauteed dish always goes under the sauce. Something cooked in the liquid was covered with the sauce. Optional step for our ossobuco is some Gremolata, a mixture of chopped up lemon zest, capers, anchovies and parsley. Goes right on top as a little zing. I personally like a polenta with this. Some crusty bread, which I then will use to scoop out the marrow from the bone. Nice and soft and fatty, as you know, fat's flavor. And all I can say is, get your knife and fork and enjoy this, please.